So as was mentioned, we've been looking at Nehemiah, and we're going to go on with that today. We'll see how far we get. It's sort of like, for me, as I was studying this out, it's probably one of the most fun bits in terms of like, you know, how your mind sometimes goes, it sort of flickers and then the lights come on. It's like sort of like that to me. So it's sort of fun that I'm doing this and I'm looking at different situations and looking over time what has happened in my life, in the life of the church, in the life of everything I've done. And I'm like, man, I can see what's happened when I've faced opposition in different areas when I'm trying to build, rebuild, come back from doing, you know, something wrong, and you're trying to rebuild the things of your life in that way, rebuilding relationships, whatever it might be, that there's this amazing pattern that we can look at today in Nehemiah that will hopefully give us some good common sense in how we deal with what we call opposition. All right, now I was thinking about opposition because we don't like it sometimes, but it's sort of good for us as well. And that's what we looked at right at the beginning when we were looking at Nehemiah, saying how we're looking at this problem we're facing, whatever it might be. Like I said, it might have been that you've lapsed and gone into sin and you need to recover yourself. You might be trying to build something, rebuild something, whatever it might be. But we can look at the opposition to what we're doing as, you know, oh, well, I may as well not bother. Or we can look at it as the opportunity now that we are going to the rebuilding as an opportunity to rebuild from where we are, from maybe the rubble of life, or maybe we're starting with nothing, but we've got this amazing vision of God we want to build, and we're building it up. And I was just thinking about sports, chess, everything in life really. Imagine playing chess without an opposition. Yeah, boring. Imagine playing footy without another team. You'd probably win every game, which is pretty cool. But in all honesty, there's no building up of your character, of your skills, of who you are as a person to strengthen and make you better. Now, that doesn't mean we enjoy opposition. We don't always like opposition, and neither should we, because sometimes it comes from people that are just horrid, right? It comes from places that are not good. It comes from the enemy. It comes from our own thought life. And it's not great. Like the opposition is horrible, but then when we look at Jesus, we've got to say, well, did Jesus face opposition in what he did? Pretty sure he did. He had this vision of God to go for it, die for everyone, redeem mankind, and yet all along the way he was opposed by people, by Satan, by circumstance that would try and take him off track. There's no doubt in your life right now there is situations, whether it's big or small, because sometimes, let's just face it, we're trying to build something in life that's not that important really, you know, like I'm trying to lose 5 kilos, but it's not life or death. It's just like, I just want to look better. And there might be oppositions to that, but really it doesn't matter. But there's other things in life that are super important to us. You know, when you're building trying to build good relationships, when you're trying to build a ministry, a business, whatever it might be that is actually more significant than just, you know, something that we'd like to do, a New Year's resolution. We're talking about meaty stuff. We're talking about going, you know what, I want to make a change in my life. You've had a destructive thing that had happened, and now you need to rebuild, whatever it might be. But you will definitely face opposition in all of this. And I wanted to look at, there's 5 areas where opposition can come and how we deal with it. I'm not sure how much we'll get through today. I'd like to get through it all. Let's see how we go. If it gets too long, we stop. How about that? Is that all right? Okay, so we're looking at opposition today. This is the next part of what we want to delve into when we're trying to rebuild, because it's going to happen in your life. When you are trying to do something, anything of significance, you are going to get opposition, there's no doubt. But how are you going to handle that? Are you going to give up? Are you going to push through? And in the story today, we're going to start looking shortly at a few of the characters that decided they were going to oppose what was happening with the rebuilding of the walls of Jerusalem, which was Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem. So these people all had power and position within that region, and I guess when people are opposed, it's usually because someone's losing something. They've lost control over you, they've lost the power to make the narrative for your life, they've lost their position over you, whatever it might be. And so these guys were with position, they were with power. They had something to lose in this case. But the saddest thing here was that the first two I mentioned, Sanballat and Tobiah, were basically brothers. They were fellow Israelites, associated with priestly families. One of them was referred to the governor of Samaria. So they had something to lose. They thought they had something to lose. They probably didn't, to be honest. But if this wall got rebuilt, they were thinking, well, maybe we're just going to lose our power. And I think sometimes we have to just remember that opposition is part of the journey. It's part of the journey that we have. God wants us to face it, defeat it, and accomplish what He wants us to do. But so many times Christians will fail to take into account that this is what's going to happen. And so when opposition comes, you just get defeated straight away. You're like, maybe you've just become a Christian and people are saying, well, you're stupid. Why are you going to church? Who do you think you are? Oh, look at you, you're so holy now. Just that mocking and mimicking. But the opposition comes in, and Jesus talked about it. When He talked about the seed of the Word of God being thrown out, and he talked about the shallow soil that the seed falls in and it grows quickly, but then because of persecution, the seed dies. It produces nothing in your life. So many times because we are not taking into account that we are going to be opposed in what we're doing, we just give up. And it's easier, we must say, to tear down than build up, isn't it? And we have to remember that these are spiritual enemies against us, trying to keep us out. So let's just have a look first of all at where these guys are sort of prominent in their opposition. First of all, the first opposition that we'll face, and it's in Nehemiah 2, verse 19 and 20. But when Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem the Arab heard of our plan, they scoffed and contemptuously. What are you doing? Are you rebelling against the king? They asked. I replied, the God of heaven will help us succeed. We, His servants, will start rebuilding this wall, but you have no share, legal right, or historic claim in Jerusalem. The first thing that you will face when you're trying to do something different, when you're like broken in relationship, is scorn. All right? People are going to look at you, and this is very personal, and it's usually before the work begins. So it's not so much laughing at what you're doing, but laughing at the idea of it. Many times it's used by the spiritual enemies of our soul. They don't know what they're talking about. It doesn't really matter to them if God has ordered something in your life. But there's this scorn that comes in straight away. It's like, who do you think you are? You're so stupid. Ha ha ha, what a silly idea. You think you can build a good relationship? Look what happened to your last one. You think you can build a good business? Look what happened to your last one. And it's sort of like this mocking of the idea. It's sort of like, who am I kidding and who do I think I am? It can be internal. It can be external. And this is a really important place that we need to remember when we're starting, because we've already decided, a few weeks ago that to get started we need courage. To get started rebuilding life, you need courage. But I've got to be honest, so many times we don't want to work at what we are doing because we are manipulated by the fear of scorn in our life. You don't want to be laughed at. You don't like it. As soon as someone comes against that idea, you're just pulling out. And here it's important that we must remember these things. Number one, we don't have to produce evidence to justify ourselves. All right? We don't have to. Don't have to enter into the conversation and say, oh, well, it's a really good idea and this, that, and the other. When you know this is something that needs to happen, when you know it's from God, or when you know it's an important thing that you are doing, we often, when we're mocked, we start to think, I need to explain myself, justify myself. But we have to become like Nehemiah and say this, the God of heaven will help me succeed. This is where basically he's saying, well, if you don't want to help, move on. I'm not interested in your scorn. I'm not interested in your laughing at me. I'm just going to move forward with this. Are there things in your life right now where that's the case? Where you won't even enter the journey to rebuild because you fear what people will say? Who do you think you are? Especially if you've come from a bad background where, things have been bad. Who do you think you are? Look at you last time. You failed. You couldn't do it. And like I said, this can be external or internal. The first enemy, the first opposition that you will face is scorn. You can't do it. Secondly, they started to move into something else called ridicule. So let's have a look at that from Nehemiah chapter 4. We're going to read verse 1 to 3. Sanballat was very angry when he learned that we were rebuilding the wall. He flew into a rage and mocked the Jews, saying in front of his friends and the Samaritan army officers, "Who does this bunch of poor, feeble Jews think that? What does this bunch of poor, feeble Jews think they're doing? Do they think they can build the wall in a single day by just offering a few sacrifices? Do they actually think they can make something of stones from a rubbish heap and charred ones at that?" Tobiah the Ammonite, who was standing beside him, remarked, "That stone wall would collapse even if a fox walked along the top of it." Now, they would think that this is quite funny. I don't know, maybe we don't get the joke so much about foxes walking along rock walls because where we are. But when scorn's not working, let's move into ridicule. You notice that the scorn at first was against Nehemiah himself. It was like, you can't do it. And it was private to him. You can't do it. But what started to happen is that when this isn't working, when I'm not getting put off by the scorn, and they can see, actually, wait a minute, I can see you've started the work. You're beginning to build, and they begin to get angry. Why? Because for whatever reason they're opposing you, whether it's jealousy, whether it's like they don't want you to be successful and remove their success, whether they want to keep control of you, but now they can see, well, wait a minute, there's something happening in your life that I can't control. But there's this anger that comes up and a ridicule. What does that mean? What did they say? Oh, you won't be able to build anything that lasts. You won't be able to do it. Let's mock you. They're going to attack these things in your life. Number one, your ability or your confidence in yourself. You cannot do it. Let me attack that. You're not going to be able to do that. They're going to question your commitment. Oh, you think this is going to be easy? You think you can rebuild your life in a day? You think you can rebuild this and get a good life going? You can fix the problems that are there. You can overcome the sin in your life. And you just think it's in a day. All you have to do is, sacrifice to your God, and then all of a sudden, magically, it'll happen. It's not possible for you. Number 3, they will question the ruin in your past. You see that? You want to build, but look at these stones, they're just rubbish. Your life's rubbish. You're hopeless. You're useless. You can't do it. Look at you. This is what you were. You were an alcoholic. How do you think you can get off alcohol? Come on. You've been trapped. Your parents were alcoholics. Your grandparents. Look at the stones you're building from. They're going to attack that, the rubbish that was in your life. They will let you know it'll all be for nothing. You're going to overcome it. But when that little fox walks along the wall, it's just going to collapse. When you're giving up smoking, but as soon as you smell that first cigarette, you're just going to go back to it. As soon as you have your first fight, you're going to return to your anger and your meanness. You're just going to do that straight away. In other words, it's not going to last. You're not strong enough. Any little hiccup, you're going to collapse. If things don't go your way, look at you, you're rebuilding your life, but I'll tell you what, if things don't go your way, and you notice where it was in front of everyone. This is really hard when you are being attacked this way, because what it's designed to do is embarrass you, to pull you down in front of other people. And we know laughter can be good medicine, but there's good laughter and bad laughter, and the genuine laughter that you hear in your life will pull you up, not pull you down. What do you have to do? How can you overcome this in your life? Well, you have to develop a thick skin, number one. And you have to learn to pray. Redirect your thoughts. Remember this, Satan's always going to ridicule your faith as well. He loves to ridicule your faith. But you've got to redirect your thoughts and focus on the things that will not make you go down. Ridicule will destroy you and make you fall. And Nehemiah turned to prayer. Now, we're going to look at that prayer right now in Nehemiah 4:4-5. Then I prayed, "Hear us, O God, for we are being mocked. May their scoffing fall back on their own heads. May they themselves become captives in a foreign land. Don't ignore their guilt. Do not blot out their sins, for they have provoked you to anger here in front of the builders." Now, we might think today that's maybe not the right prayer to pray, because Jesus said to us, why don't you just pray, God, forgive them? This is probably true. But at the same time, the point of this was that Nehemiah started to change the focus. He brought the problem before the Lord, laid it at his feet, and moved on. He didn't begin to fight the person, but he fought on his knees. He began to pray to see what God might do, and then he got on with the work. Redirecting the way through prayer, will redirect you in these ways. Number one, you'll recognize you're going to have opposition, I think. When you're praying about things like, there is opposition, you're recognizing it. But you must recognize you're not on your own. You're actually working with God and for God. And you shouldn't be focusing on retaliation, which is what we tend to do, right? If someone does something to us, the golden rule, do to others before they do to you. That's not the golden rule, guys. Do to others what you want them to do to you. But so often when we have that opposition, we turn our attack on that person, don't we? It's a good thing to do when you're in the flesh, right? They've said something against me. Well, you're a bad person too. Sometimes we do have to face things, and we'll talk about that as we go along. But when we start to fall into that trap, the whole motivation for our change begins to change. One of the worst things I ever hear, and I think is the most, maybe we could call it an immature way of looking at things, is I'll show them. I'll succeed because they said I can't. You have totally given over to the wrong motivation for what you're doing, because the motivation, as I said before, is to rebuild what is broken and make it right. To succeed because God has put you on a path, and as soon as you start going, I'm going to succeed so I can show them, what are you losing focus on? Yeah, absolutely. Losing focus on Jesus. Don't try and succeed because someone said you can't. Succeed because God has blessed you. Succeed because God has put in you the character of Christ that gives you the strength to succeed. Succeed because you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Not because someone said you couldn't. Focus well. Don't listen to those that are going to mock you openly. Next one. Direct attack. So looking at Nehemiah 4, verse 7 and 8. But when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabs, Ammonites and Ashdodites, notice how this sort of group keeps growing, heard that the work was going ahead, that the gaps in the wall of Jerusalem were being repaired, they were furious. They all made plans to come and fight against Jerusalem and throw us into confusion. So here's our direct attack. Ridicule's at the start, but now you're having some success. They're looking at you going, wow, look at what's happening. I can't believe it, that woman that I've been trying to berate for so long, she's starting to get joy. I don't like that at all. They can see that they're going to lose, and they need to take extra action. The only way they can see that they can do it is to attack what you are doing. So ridicule is always against the vision of your life. I want to do this. This is what I'm going to do. But when it comes to direct attack, it's to try and destroy reality. They can see there is something happening in your life. And you know what? Your success in life can make others feel uncomfortable. They don't like it. And so they try to destroy it, whatever it might be. They try to destroy your happiness. They try to destroy what you are building and succeeding in. They'll try and offer you that joint. Oh, look, man, he's actually given up. I'm going to have to up this. Hey, come to my party, have a joint. Drag you back into the sin. Oh, man, you haven't been... I can't believe it. He's like, we used to share these dirty pictures together. He's not sharing them anymore. I'm going to I'll work out a way to invite him to the strippers or something. Let's get him back into sin. People who are in sin hate people who aren't. I've got to tell you right now. They want to destroy you because they don't like God in you. It's just normal. And whatever it might be. Oh, you used to always come and you play soccer every Sunday. You're going to church. What's wrong with you? I'm going to get you back somehow. Well, they'll attack what you're doing, make you feel stupid. You see, your success will never lead your enemies to applaud you. Fantastic. You're doing so well. Bravo to you. It will just intensify the resistance against what you are doing, what God is doing through you, and the changes you are making in your life. So what are you going to do about it? Well, first of all, he prayed to God, as he just about always does. You'll often see this throughout Nehemiah. I prayed to God. Like, first step. But reposition your forces. Don't just ignore it. If there's an attack against you, you can't just say, oh, well, it doesn't matter. There is an attack. Someone's trying to destroy you. They're trying to destroy your life. You need to be not ignoring something, but you have to begin to go, okay, how am I going to reposition things so that I can actually prevent this attack being successful? Which means you might need to make some changes and not just settle for defeat. Maybe... in your family, you've been building these relationships in your family and it's going really well, but then you can see something's happening, your family's not settled, something's upsetting it, and you think, wow, we're under attack at the moment. What should you need to do? Who knows? Maybe you need to go, well, we need to change some things, or let's make sure we go to church together, or we eat meals together, or we go to a park once a week. Let's build that relationship. What about your business that's under attack? Are there changes that need to be made to prevent things happening? What about physically or spiritually? Are there people that you need to go, well, you actually need to be out of my life? I need to make sure there's distance between me and you. Is there changes you need to make to spend more time in the Word, or have an accountability partner in life so that you can have someone to stand guard? And what you need to do is make sure, like we'll look at verse 16 to 18, 16 and 17 of chapter 4. Nehemiah did this, but from then on only half my men worked, while the other half stood guard with spears, shields, bows, and coats of mail. The leaders stationed themselves behind the people of Judah who were building the wall. The labourers carried on the work with one hand supporting their load and one hand holding a weapon. They didn't stop the work, but they did defend. It's important that we do that in our life as well. Don't stop the work just because someone's attacking you and just focus only on the enemy. Make sure you keep building during these times, that you keep going, keep building. Don't give up, push through. And the next one, discouragement. I feel like this is very easy. A very easy weapon of opposition, discouragement. So let's read chapter 4, verse 10 and 11. Then the people of Judah began to complain, the workers are getting tired, there's so much rubble to be moved, we will never be able to build the wall by ourselves. Meanwhile, our enemies are saying, before they know what's happening, we will swoop down on them and kill them and end their work. Read verse 12 as well. Yep. The Jews who lived near the enemy came and told us again and again they will come from all directions and attack us. Did you notice that the attitude of discouragement is contagious? You start listening, you're going to catch it. You or others, you yourself or others will look at all the reasons why you should be discouraged. If we look at in what's been said in these verses here, there's too much rubble, it's too hard, we can't do it. The enemies recognize what you're doing, they're going to attack you. Oh, we're going to be under attack. Satan will recognize it. The attacks are going to come from all directions. And the last one there, that those who lived near the enemy, they kept coming back and saying it again and again. Time after time, they'd come back and say it. You know, the enemies, they're going to come and attack us. And what happens is the confidence that you have gets eroded. You're not ready to keep going because in your mind, all it is about all these threats, fear or faith. Where are you going to go, fear or faith? And one of the things that I noted in that is that there are people who are part of your life who live way too close to the enemy. And they begin to bring back the enemy's reports, not the God report. And before long you think that because they're your friends that they're so discouraged because of all these other people that are actually your enemies saying all these things, but they spend so much time close to the enemy that they think that the lies are truth now. And they keep bringing it back to you. Are there people like that in your life that just keep bringing you the bad news? No matter what, they hear it. They're living too close to the enemies. So what we want to do is to restore our confidence. And Nehemiah, he looked over the situation and then he encouraged them. In verse 13 of chapter 4, so I placed armed guards behind the lowest parts of the wall in the exposed areas. I stationed the people to stand guard by families armed with swords, spears and bows. Then as I looked over the situation, I called together the nobles and the rest of the people and said to them, don't be afraid of the enemy. Remember the Lord, who is great and glorious, and fight for your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes. What can we get from that? Nehemiah, first of all, encourages them. He says to be encouraged through service, work together, draw together as families, work together. When you're discouraged, one of the best things that you can do is look for somewhere to serve and people to serve with in a family. Because as you're serving together, there's this encouragement that comes from each other. And I know I've had definitely a great experience of that when I years ago did a thing called, I think it was inward bound, outward bound, I don't know. There was two different ones. But we had to run, it was over 100 kilometres, dropped off in the night. No idea where we were. We went out blindfolded. We had a map and a compass. And we had to find the finish point. Didn't know where we started from. But during that trip, which was over 100 kilometres of running, and you had to get there as quick as you could, there'd be different times when one would give up and the other one would encourage. And you'd pick up and you'd go again, and guess what? The one who encouraged fell down. Oh, I don't think I can do this anymore. Come on, keep going. And they'd work through it. There is such power in working with people and serving people, but also doing it together. Secondly, he worshipped. What did he say? He encouraged them to remember the Lord. You know your confidence can never come from looking at your circumstances. Well, it might, but they're not reliable because one day it's good, the next day it's bad. It's always changing. The much stronger source that you can have is to look at the Lord, worship him, and trust him. If you're in a place where you're feeling that threat, discouragement, can I just encourage you, begin to worship. Honestly, put a worship song on at home, shut the curtains, lock the door, dance around before the Lord, worship him however you want to do, but begin to get your heart alive back to God. That is a great way to overcome discouragement. And I know some people say, I don't really like worship. Well, that's ridiculous. Whatever way it might be. Maybe you don't like singing worship. But surely you can worship God in other ways. If you're not worshiping God, then he's not your God. Get to know God through worship. It's so important. And I think the last thing in that is that he said, remember why you are doing it. Why are you doing it? Remember the Lord who's great. Fight. Fight for your brothers. Fight for your sons. Fight for your daughters. Fight for your wives, and fight for your homes. This work is too important. And any work that God gives you is important enough that you should fight. Remember that. That you don't get distracted by discouragement and begin to believe those words, but you go, no, this is way too important. I know I'm discouraged. I know it's hard right now. And that's exactly what happens, isn't it? Whenever we're starting anything worthwhile, the project always seems too big. It always seems too hard at some point. It really does. Pretty much everyone goes through that. It's what they, in business terms, they always talk about the hardest bit, the middle bit, the in-between. Because at the start, you've got the vision, the excitement. At the end, you've got the goal. But in between, there's a whole lot of hard work. And you just have to remember that. All right. Last one. We got time for this or not? What's the time? Yes. All right. Distraction. All right. So we're going to jump over to Nehemiah chapter 6 now. Verse 1 and 2. Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem the Arab, and the rest of our enemies. It's funny how he can't just name them anymore. It's like they're built again. Found out that I had finished rebuilding the wall, that no gaps remained, though we had not set up the doors and the gates. There's still a little opportunity left. The gates aren't on. So Sanballat and Geshem sent a message asking me to meet them at one of the villages in the plain of Ono. But I realized they were plotting to harm me. Verse 5 and 6. The fifth time, Sanballat's servant came with an open letter. So we're going to jump a few verses here, because that's going to be our answer later on. Maybe we won't. Verse 1 and 2, yes. We'll just leave it there. Verse 1 and 2. Our first enemy is false promises. I don't know if you ever heard the saying that we should keep our friends close and our enemies closer. And the whole idea is to make your enemy your friend. You will be distracted when your enemy decides, oh, it's time to make peace. Let's be friends. Let's make up. Let's get together. Let's have a party and, now we'll be on each other's side and it will all be good. Never, ever, ever trust your enemy, ever. You see it all the time where someone's against something or a vision or a leadership or whatever it might be, and to shut them up, they say, oh, we'll give you this position. And it does shut them up for a while. But underneath, they're just that, the wolf in the lamb's clothing, sheep's clothing. Their heart hasn't changed. And your enemy is your enemy until they're your friend. You understand that? They're never on your side until they're on your side. And it does happen, and it can happen, that your enemy will transfer that over and become a friend when maybe they've had a repentant heart or they've seen the light or whatever it might be. But don't trust your enemy, ever. Don't be distracted when they say, hey, come on, let's get together, let's sort this out, it's going to be great. Because they have got evil intentions, which is exactly what it says there in those verses, that, let's get together. But he realized they were plotting to harm him. Your enemy is not your friend. Yes, be kind, as Jesus said. Just love your enemies. But don't be fooled to think that just because you love them, they love you. They don't. They're your enemy. That's it. Plain and simple. And you can see it in our kids, right? Basically, what will happen is the enemy, because they're chucking a big tantrum because you're not giving them what they want. And I'm not saying because they're upset or they've got good reason or they don't understand, but they're just chucking a tantrum to get something. And you're like, oh, let me make you a friend, give you what you need. Guess what? They're your best friend. Until next time. No different with adults. There's 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds that still chuck tantrums. till you give them what they want. Hasn't changed just because they got older. Okay, so that's the first one, the false promise of the enemy. Second one, gossip, verse 5 and 7, 5 to 7, so 5 to 6. So what's happened is there's been these messages coming to Nehemiah, but the fifth time it came in a different way. He's rejected their offer to get together. The fifth time, Sanballat's servant came with an open letter in his hand, and this is what it said. There's a rumor among the surrounding nations, and Geshem tells me it's true, that you and the Jews are planning to rebel, and that's why you are building the wall. According to his reports, you plan to be their king. He also reports that you've appointed prophets in Jerusalem to proclaim about you. Look, there's a king in Judah. You can be very sure that this report will get back to the king, so I'd suggest that you come and talk it over with me. So here we are. Basically, he's saying the king of Judah is going to hear about this. You want to take his place. Gossip, gossip, gossip. We're not going to be able to distract you with false unity, so now we're going to have gossip thrown into the mix. And then thirdly, in verse 10, fear. I haven't got that one written up, have I? Anyway, basically it was fear. They're going to come and kill you. Go and hide in the temple. That's what you need to do. Your enemy's coming and fear takes over. And so right at the very end, you're so afraid that you run away. Satan sends doubtful thoughts into your mind. It's all going to fall apart. It's not going to work. How are you going to face these things? Number one, remember your priorities. Say no. Learn to say no. Why should you stop the work to go and make friends with your enemy who doesn't love you anyway? Nehemiah saw it would be a waste of time. So let's go and look to his answer to that. Nehemiah 6 verse 3. So I replied, this is going back to our first one where the enemy's saying, come down to the plain of Ono. So I replied by sending this message to them, I'm engaged in a great work, so I can't come. Why should I stop working to come and meet with you? What a great answer, right? When you're involved in something good, when you're rebuilding something in your life, and someone's trying to distract you like that, just say, I don't have time for that. No, not coming. Nehemiah saw it would be a waste of time because he knew that the job was to keep rebuilding the wall, not go and have a feast with the enemy, not to go and make sure everything feels all right. And sometimes this is a mark of maturity in your life, just to say no. But keep in mind, sometimes you have to accept no from others as well. Secondly, in the battle against gossip, I love this answer. This is awesome. So gossip is not the truth, right? We're not talking about someone who's your friend coming to you, your accountability people, and saying, you're doing something wrong. This needs to change. If you really want this to succeed, you need to change this because it's not going right, okay? That's okay. Because it would be true. They're looking at you, and like one of the things I always try to hold in my heart is the only people who I care about what they say is those who know me and those who love me. Everyone else, don't care about your opinion. Nehemiah says this in chapter 6, verse 8 and 9. I replied, there's no truth to any part of your story. You're making up the whole thing. They were just trying to intimidate us, imagining that they could discourage us and stop the work, so I continued the work with even greater determination. How many times are you building something good, gossip comes in, and you just got to face that gossip and make sure that everyone knows why it's not true? Nehemiah just had that wonderful answer. Everything just said you made up. No truth in it. Is that how we answer gossip against us? When someone comes, oh, so-and-so said this, and you're going to do this, and then you're going to take over the world? You're just trying to do this to get back at them, or, there's all these reasons. Do we try and justify it? Gossip is such a distraction because we try and meet it. Again, it's sort of that meeting of wasting time. Well, they've said this, and I need to go and sort that out. And no, that's not what I said. This is what I said. And I love Nehemiah's answer. Can we maybe be a bit more like this? What you just said to me is not true at all. It's just made up. See you later. Stop a lot of trouble. So wonderful. What about fear? This is where we have to remember who we are in Christ. What God has called us to, or what's so important that it needs to change. Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 11 to 13, when responding to the threat of fear, we're going to kill you, go and hide. He replied, should someone in my position run from danger? Should someone in my position enter the temple to save his life? No, I won't do it. And usually it's false. If it's real, we already talked about that, facing the danger. I realized that God had not spoken to him, but he had uttered this prophecy against me because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. They were hoping to intimidate me and make me sin. Then they would be able to accuse and discredit me. As I was thinking about this, I was like, you know what? The door of my life, the door of change, the door of rebuilding, of building something in my life, there's two people at my door. Two trying to gain entry. One's named fear and one's name's faith. They're both knocking on the same door at the same time, but I'm responsible for who comes in and dines with me. Is it fear? Is it faith? When you face the fear of something that might happen, just remember Nehemiah. His answer is right. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not going to be the one that's afraid. I'm going to trust in God. And in the end, the wall was completed. So Nehemiah 6, verse 15 and 16. So on October 2, the wall was finished just 52 days after we had begun. When our enemies and the surrounding nations heard about it, they were frightened and humiliated. They realized this work had been done with the help of our God. Isn't that beautiful? When God completes something in you, your enemies become ashamed. When you finish the job, it's the enemies who are frightened and humiliated, and your confidence is restored. It is worth it. Not to give it to your enemy, but because it is a job that God wanted you to do. And remember that the ability to do this always comes from your relationship with God if you're a Christian, not through your own strength. Living with His priorities in your life, depending on God and not yourself. And sometimes opposition can be one of the greatest things to draw you into faith. As Sue said this morning, I was just like, God, I got nothing else. I got no one else. And if you're on that point of your life where you've got nothing else and no one else, the first thing I want to do this morning is to invite you into a relationship with Jesus. If that's you this morning and you're like, I actually need Jesus, I need forgiveness, I want to rebuild my life, sin has taken hold of me, I feel so horrible, I want Him in my life, this is your moment to do it, to say, Jesus, come in. We're going to pray and you just invite Him into your heart and accept the forgiveness that comes through Him. Father God, I thank you for Jesus. This morning I give my heart to you. I'm so sick of where I am and I want to get out. Give me the strength like Nehemiah had to face it, to grow, to build, and change my life forever through the power of your Holy Spirit working in me. So Lord, I accept your forgiveness today, the forgiveness of Christ, and ask you to come into my life now. Amen. All right, hopefully this session's been helpful. I think if you go away and just think about it, it will help you a lot in going forward. And so we'll just, as we have someone playing some music up the front and just reflecting, we'll just get a couple of slides to just go through, just with the things to remember. Confronting, defeating, scorn, have a thick skin, believe God's word. It's not human opinion or Satan's lies. Ridicule, redirect your thoughts with prayer. Direct attack, recognize, reposition, fight and build. Discouragement, serve others with others and worship God. Distraction, remember priorities. Say no when you need to. Remember who you are. If you want prayer for anything, I'll be down the front, and any of the elders will come and pray that if you want prayer for anything. But yeah, just have a reflection on that. Is there something in your life where you're facing one of those things? You just started, you've got the vision, you've just started, you're halfway through, you're nearly finished. Where are you, and what do you need to do if there's people pressing against you?